hauling freight across the state line. Watching Archie Bargie's logo start to shine.
G'day, Archie Bargie crew. Hope you're having a fantastic day today and your family's happy and healthy. Okay, what we're going to do today is we're going to have a look at all my settings. Every single setting in the game, because there's been people sending me emails and asking questions and comments about different settings. And I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll show you all my settings in the game. And that goes for every single setting. We're going to go right through. I don't know how long this video is going to take. And I apologize if it goes longer than you'd expect. But that's because I want to make sure that everybody can see every setting that I have in game. Now, this will apply for both ATS and ETS2. I have basically exactly the same settings in both games. All right, so if you're here and you're an ETS2 driver, these settings will exactly match what I have in ETS2 as well. This is ATS, but like I say, the settings definitely are the same in both games. Okay, now I'll be covering, like I say, all the settings. I'll also be covering or telling you about the equipment that I've got and how I have that set up. So that's covered as well. And I'll also show you a few things in my config file that I alter so that you know what I use in that as well. And again, these are my settings. They're not necessarily what you will have your settings set at, because you're an individual user. You have your own PC set up and your own graphics card. So therefore, what you have to do is, if you do use my settings, use them as a base setting and then suck it and see, as I always say. If it doesn't work, alter it until it gets to the desired level or whatever you want for your game, okay? But these are the settings I use. I find that the game works extremely well with these settings, and I don't get stutter, and I get good frame rates, and the images that I see look great. All right, so let's, without any further ado, get on with it. All right, so here we are in ATS, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and have a look at these settings in options. All right, so the first thing is graphics. Now, again, these are the settings I use, but I do alter them from time to time. And I'll explain that as I go through why I alter them and what I alter them to, so that you can understand. All right. So when I'm playing single player, I have these settings that I have right now. Okay. When I use a dedicated server, sometimes I will change the settings depending on what my connection to the dedicated server is like. In other words, my internet connection. I may alter some of the graphic settings so that the game runs smoother for me. But when I'm playing in single player, and mostly when I'm playing in dedicated servers, this is the settings that I'll use. But I do alter them if I find that the connection is bad and I need to lower my settings. So I use a single screen. And it's 1920 by 1080 resolution. It is 240 hertz, the monitor, but that's so I set it at 239 hertz, and I disable vertical sync. Now, I'm not going to go through and tell you exactly what all these settings are for. I'm just going to tell you what I set them at, because if I tell you what they're all for, it will take ages. All right. If you want to know what they're for, just read what it says up here in the right of the screen, and it will tell you. Okay. So, like I say, 239 hertz, disable vertical sync, and I normally set my FPS limit to half of what my refresh rate is. Okay, a lot of people will tell you that the game is set at 60 hertz, 60 frames per second. Anything over that is a waste. I don't believe that. I'm sorry. That's just the way I am. I find that if I set it to 120, in most situations, I'm getting over 100 frames per second in game. When I go into cities and towns, it will drop down, and sometimes it will drop right down to 25 frames per second. Again, just depending on how poorly or how greatly the section of the map is optimized. Okay. For my FPS limit in the background, I set that to 30 frames per second. And again, you can set that to whatever you want. My scaling, I have at 400%. I've got a 5070 graphics card, the NVIDIA 5070 or 5070 card. When I'm in server, dedicated server I sometimes drop that down as much as 200% to try and get the game to run a bit smoother. But most cases, it's either 400 or 300. But like I say, in single player, I set it 400% because I like a crisp, clear image, and that's what it provides. On the anti-aliasing, I use SMAA and TAA combined because I'm using NVIDIA. And that, to me, is the best setting to prevent shimmering and jittering. So I use that. And I'm also using reshade, and I'm using the reshade shader that I'm not supposed to use this with, but I found that if I don't, I still get shimmering and jittering, so I still use it even with that. I know that sounds like a contradiction in terms, but again, I sucked it in the seed, and that's what it came up with. So that is my best setting that I found. Always sharp, 0.8 for the Loomis sharpening. Again, you've got to suck it and see and find which one you're happy with. Texture quality, I have it custom, and that's because I alter that in the config file, and I'll go through that later and show you what I've got that at. Anisotropic filtering, I have that 16 by. Normal maps, I have ticked. Reflection scaling, again, anything I've got custom here is because I alter it in the config file. Okay. Mirror quality, I have high. Mirror resolution, I have low, because this is the biggest impact that I've found on the game performance of anything, is if you have this at high or even medium, you'll find that you might end up getting stuttering or whatever. So as long as you've got this on low, these two don't really matter that much, but this one will this one here will affect your performance greater than anything else that I've found. Again, shadow quality, I've adjusted that in the config file, so it's custom. Fast shadows, I have that on. Interior shadows, I have that on. Screen space ambient occlusion, now this is a debatable. A lot of people say to turn it off. I have it on high, and I find that it's fine. Light visibility range, again, it's custom because I have that adjusted in my config file. Traffic headlights, I have that on. Secondary vehicle, I have that on. Depth of field, I have that off. Cannot stand that. Sunshafts, I have that on. Love it. Vegetation detail, again, custom. Grass density, custom. Again, in the config file, I have them adjusted. Weather quality, ultra. I like decent weather, but I'm also using a weather mod, but that's another story. Pedestrians, I have that on. Okay, so that's all the graphic settings. So if you want to copy of any of them, just pause the video at any stage, have a look, and copy them that way. Again, using them as a base setting and suck it and see and find what you feel is best for your setup. Audio. Again, this is debatable. A lot of people say that my settings are wrong, but I like it the way it is, and it works fine for me. Master volume, 100%. I would like to hear things. Music volume, I have it off because I don't want music playing when I'm streaming or when I'm videoing, because I could get hit with copyright strikes. For you, you can leave it on at whatever level you want. Intro logos volume, I have it 12% because I don't want that too loud. UI sounds, I have that 50%. Radio volume, that's 0, but again, that's whatever it will be in-game, because you can adjust that in-game. Play sound when the game is in background, no, I have that off. Vehicle, engine, all these ones here I have at 50%. Right, I have all my volumes basically at 50%, is probably the best way to describe it. Have backup beeper turned off. I know in real life you use them. If this was my realistic profile, which it's not, but if it was, I'd have that turned on. Interior sounds volume, I have that 50%. Open window noise, I have that on. Noise of the flowing air, have that off because I find that the same thing when you have the windows open, you get that anyway. I'm about to sneeze. Reverb effect of the cabin, I have that off. Find it extremely annoying. Rumble strips, or rumble stripes, whatever you want to call them, I have that turned on. 50% volume for all of these. Reverb effect of the environment, I have that on. Voice navigation volume. Again, this is adjustable in game, and I'll adjust it. Sorry, it's adjustable here. This isn't adjustable in game. I have it at 85%. If I need to, I'll come back here and turn it up or turn it down. Enable voice navigation, yes. I have SpongeBob as a GPS voice. I don't think there's a preview for it. No, there's not. Speed warnings, no, I don't have any of them because I've got others that will, other devices that will give me those warnings. CB radio volume, I have that at 100%. CB radio audio effects, I have that at 100%. Very seldom actually use it, but it's there if needed. Voiceover noise, I have that on. Roger beep, have that on. Override incoming Roger beep, have that off. Roger beep sound is the 9, which is... Oh, hang on. I know why you can't hear that. Let me fix this. Sorry about that. Right. That's the sound that I have. Okay. So that's the volume. The audios and the volumes. Okay. And again, like I say, I'm not going to explain everyone because it'll take ages. All right. In gameplay, if this was hardcore, I'd have all 3 of these turned on, but it's not. This is just my normal everyday one where I just do whatever I want in it. But if it was hardcore or realistic, these would be on. This should be set at 100. I don't know why it's at 95, but anyway, a lot of people ask me why do I have it at 95 because I'd seen it at 95 before. I didn't even realize I had it on 95. So it's on 100 now. Again, random parking is what I have in my realistic and my standard profile. The reason that is because in real life it would be random. Some will be hard, some will be easy, some will be medium. So I put it at random so that I get a mixture of hard parking, easy parking, and medium parking. Again, if this was my hardcore profile, I'd have it on skilled parking. But because it's just my standard or my realistic, I have it on random. Random road events, 15%. Rain probability, 15%. I adjust that accordingly to whatever I want. If I'm doing hardcore, I will adjust that up or down. Or, you know what I mean. It's suck it and see. Time zones, I have full info. Show blockers, meaning show the X's that are across the road. I have that turned on because I'd like to know that I can't go down a road. I don't want to be surprised. As it says, disable with caution because you'll end up running into invisible barriers because you've turned it off. Okay, transmission types, I have it at H shifter because I use an 18-speed gearbox. Adaptive automatic naturally is disabled because I'm not using automatic. Smart sequential shifting is off, again, because I'm using manual. Vehicle stability, I have that. Oh, that's weird. On this profile, I've got it at 60%. I didn't realize I did. I have that normally at about 70 on my other profiles. I normally have this at about 30. I haven't been in this profile setting for a while. And I normally have that because the physics have changed a lot. So 70%, 30-30. Drive shaft torque, 85. Brake intensity, 95. Air brake simulation, I have that turned off. Again, if this was realistic, I'd have that turned on. For realistic and hardcore. Realistic fuel consumption, I'd have that turned on no matter what. But in some situations, I'll turn it off. Like if we're having a fun day where we're just letting our hair down and doing whatever we want, I'll have that turned off so I'm not worried about fuel. But in most circumstances, when it's realistic or hardcore, I have that turned on. Uneven surface simulation, I have that at 80%. Cabin accessories, physics, I have that turned on. That just simply means that when you bump into something, or turn or accelerate or hit the brakes, Anything in the cabin that can swing or move will move. Simple as that. Truck speed limiter, I don't have that turned on, but in some situations I will, depending on what I'm doing, because in VT log you can be required to have that for masterclass competition. Adaptive cruise control, have that turned off. I absolutely hate that. Smart cruise control, tolerance to 0 kilometers per hour, miles per hour. Cruise control, grid steps 5 miles or 5 kilometers or 5 miles per hour. Lane assist mode disabled, again, hate that. Never could get it to work properly. Don't know if it does anymore. Never even bothered looking at it after the first couple iterations. Just got so peed off with it not working. And a lot of people said it was because of the way I was using it. And again, I don't care. I don't like it. Blind spot sensor turned off. Don't like the constant beeping. I again never turn that, even in realistic or hardcore. Rain sensor, I have that turned on, so that any of the trucks that I'm using that have automatic wipers, they work. Automatic engine electricity start, off. Automatic headlights, off. Automatic high beams, off. Automatic blinker turn off, have that on. Automatic parking brake engaged, off. Automatic engine brake, off. Automatic retarder, I have that turned on. Hill start assistance, have that turned on because I'm testing it to see how it works. Seems to work good. Anti-lock brake system, have that turned on. Traction control, have that turned on. Emergency brake system, disabled. Don't want that on because, again, that causes nothing but problems. Automatic differential lock, off. Automatic drop of liftable axles, have that turned on. Smart throttle control, I don't even know what that is. When enabled, the vehicle will hold lower throttle by default after quick. Yeah, not interested. Advanced trailer coupling, I have that turned on because I, again, believe to keep that as realistic as possible. Trailer cables, player cables, player trailers, sorry. You've got a choice, again, whatever you prefer. Trailer stability, I have that at 50% here. Normally, I would have that at about 70 as well. Again, I haven't been in this profile for a while and adjusted anything. Again, because of the new physics, I found that 70 is better. Cameras, invert mouse, no. Steering camera rotation, no. Steering camera rotation factor, 100% doesn't matter because I have it turned off. Steering camera rotation reverse, disabled because I'm using head tracking. All this I don't use because I'm using head tracking. Physical camera movement, yes, I have that turned on. Physical camera movement factor, 100%. Interior camera horizon locking factor, 100%. Auto camera centering delay, disabled. This is pretty good if you don't have head tracking. If you use this, I would recommend having it on at, say, whatever you feel is comfortable. I think I tested it and found that 4 seconds was good. Camera movement speed, instant, and interior camera zoom, toggle. Now, what that means is when I've got that on toggle, you can have hold. I use my right mouse button for the interior camera zoom. So when I press the right mouse button, it goes to the zoom. I don't have to hold it down. So that means that I can then go back to doing whatever I was doing. And if I've then finished, I can hit the right mouse button again and it unzooms. All right. I did explain that one, but I thought it better because a lot of people were wondering what that was. Okay. Interface. And again, you can pause the video at any stage so you can go back and check your settings. Desktop backgrounds, you can select from all these. I went with that one. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Random desktop background theme, have that turned off. 60-second delay. I've left them at default, basically. Show limit for current vehicle mode is what I have for the navigation speed limit. Navigation speed warning, yes, I have that on. Keep widgets hidden. Okay. That's showing on, but that's because I actually have it on in the game at the moment. But this is all changed within the game, so I would normally have it like that. Okay. Keep mirrors hidden. Again, that can be changed in the game. Keep notifications hidden. Again, that can be changed in the game. So if you're changing it in the game, you come back here and wonder why it's been changed. It's because you changed it in the game. Okay. Navigation. Show navigation line always. I want to see where I'm going. Navigation mode, best, because you want the best. Okay, again, whatever you prefer, but that's what I use. Map align flat. I chose that because I found that these ones didn't work that well. I don't know. I might do a bit of testing on that later just to see if they've regained their workingness. Okay, language, United States, English because it is in the US. Region presets, US. Localized city and state names, yes. Show secondary names on map. This is if you're using a different language. I have it turned off because I'm not using a different language. My language is English, albeit Australian. Displayed currency, US dollars, because we're in the US. 24-hour clock, nope, don't want it. Length of units, miles. Weight units, all this is basically US. Okay, so I've kept that at the US. Although I did change that from, I think it was short tons was the default. What was it? No, pounds only was the default. I changed it to that. Can't remember why, but I like it that way. All right, so then we move on to contextual hints. Now, if you are getting annoyed with all those pop-ups that are coming up on your screen, this is the one you turn off. Okay? When enabled, helpful tips based on your play style will appear. They are helpful at first if you're not used to the game, but if you're used to the game, they're just nothing but bloody annoying. So I turn them off. I do not use that because if you reset it, they will start all over again. So no, turn it off. Others, show cutscenes. I used to have that turned on, and now I've got it turned off because it basically shows the cutscenes when you buy a garage and all that stuff. I have all my cutscenes turned off. All these scenes here are off. Okay, because I don't want them, and you don't see them in real life. In the convoy, enabled name tags, yes. Open chat with activate, yes. Close chat input after sending the message, nope. Fade chat completely, yes. Fade chat delay 10 seconds, and configure quick replies. I don't do that, so I haven't got anything configured in there. So that's all the interface ones. Keys and buttons, I am not going to go through these because these are my personal preferred settings, and I'm definitely not going to go through them. You may see here something like that. That's because I'm using a third-party indicator stalk setup. So you will see something like that in some of the settings, and that's where the indicator stalk takes over the setting. And again, this is all up to you what you want to put in there. A lot of it, I don't have anything in there because I'm using different things to control them. All right, so in the controls, now this is a very important part, and I'll go through this a little bit more in depth. For my steering wheel, I have keyboard and the Moser R5 base that I'm using. R5 Moses, beautiful setup. This one here, ANXTF1, is actually my gear shift knob top. This piece here that controls the range in the splitter and my Jake brake on top here. That's what that is. Okay. The sim task flight stick right, which is this baby here. I hope you'll actually hang on. Let me do this. Whoops. Let me bring this up so you can see it a bit better. All right. So that's the gear shift knob I was talking about, where you've got your splitter and range and blah, blah, blah. Okay. And this one here is the flight stick. Now, what I use this for is this button here is for turning my head tracking on and off. This button here is for centering my head tracking. Okay. And these buttons here are for lowering and raising my suspension front and rear. And this one here is for returning my suspension back to central. All right. And this one here is for adjusting my Jake brake intensity. So they're the only buttons I use on this for this game. So again, that button there, all right, is for turning head tracking on and off. That button there is for centering it. These buttons, front and back, raise and lower suspension. Centering suspension again, and adjusting the Jake brake. So that's what that one is. The, whoops, let's get back on there, get that back where it was. Okay, so now, so that was a farm stick. The USB joystick is, which one is that? Gotta remember which one's which now. The top, oh yeah, the top one is the indicator stalks with the ignition and everything down here, and the bottom one is my actual gear shift, my AliExpress fantastic gear shift. Just showing people too, I've replaced the metal top. I don't know if you can see that actually again. Sorry guys, let me do this for you so you can see. Should just left it large so like you can see it. Okay, if you have a look in there, see this nylon top? That actually used to be metal. Don't know if I've still got the metal one floating around here somewhere. Hang on. Let me see if I can find it. No, it's around here somewhere. But the metal one is black, okay? And what I found was it was rubbing against the metal shaft and causing slight, very minute metal filings to drop down into the gear shift. So I blew it all out, got rid of the metal filings, and I bought myself a couple of nylon sheets like this and traced the pattern on the nylon sheet and cut it out with a drill. And now it doesn't matter because it's a nylon gear shift. And when I use it, it's not rubbing metal against metal, and I'm not getting filings in my gear shift, if you know what I mean. So it makes the whole setup way better and longer lasting. Now, I wonder if they'll ever do that themselves and put a nylon top on it. We'll see. Well, yeah, one day we'll find out. But, okay, so that's what I did with that. And that's what the other USB generic joystick is. Okay, so again, where are we? Yeah, H shifter, all that. Did I go through this? Oh, that's right. It's in another section as well. Anyway, so H shifter, disabled that. Smart sequential, don't use it. Now, here are my settings. And again, this is for my setup, all right? So it may not work for your setup because you might have a Thrustmaster or one of the others. Okay, I can't remember names off the top of my head. But this is for the Moser R5 and for my wheel setup and for my indicator setup and for my pedal setup. I'm using the standard, I think it's the SP1 pedals for controls. And again, like I say, this is for my setup. I have a truck wheel attached to the base, so I don't use any of the buttons on here. On the other steering wheel that comes with it, all my buttons are on this controller over here, but I'll get back to that later. All right, so for the steering sensitivity, I have it at 1.10. I found that the best. Steering non-linearity, 0.12. For my steering animation range, I have it at 1,440 degrees. Now, the reason I set it at that is because to me, I like a realistic turning radius on my wheel, like I was in a real truck. A lot of people prefer it to be down at 900, some even lower. Some like it higher at 1,800. 1,800 to me is just too high. This just feels more realistic and more natural, having it set to 1,440. And it just feels more natural, okay? Steam input mapping mode. I've never bothered changing that. It's always, yeah, well, I can't change it. There you go. So anyway, that's probably why I never bothered changing it. Force feedback, I have that ticked. Overall gain for the force feedback, I have at 175%. Found that the best again for my setup. Centering at high speed, I have at 80%, 50 and 50% for both the centering at low speed and internal friction. Engine resonance, I have that at 2%. I found that any higher than that, and I'm going like shaking like crazy on the steering wheel. So 2% is all I need. Terrain surface I have at 25%. Bumps I have 45% because I like to feel the road beneath my feet, or below, or you know what I mean, the road beneath my tyres. Collisions I have at 25%. Gearbox grind I have at 10% because I found again that that's fairly decent sort of vibration through the wheel. Understeer slip, I have these set at 0 and 0 only because with the new physics I found that if you had it any higher with my setup, that understeer was incredibly overpowered. Assisted steering, I definitely have that at 0. I've never used that. This has always been grayed out for me, so I can't change it. Now, here is the most important thing that I've found due to the clutch problems that people have been having. I have done a lot of testing with these settings here to try and get everything to work properly. Now, I used to have dead zones for all of these. I used to have, no, not for steering, I didn't. But for acceleration, I used to have that set to about 15. Brake, I had that at about 13. And clutch, I used to have that at about 15 as well. But I've found that if you don't want any problems, and I used to have the clutch range at around about 50%, and it used to work great. But now, since the latest update, I found that I have to zero everything as far as the dead zone goes. Every single one of them, put them to 0. And don't ask me why any of these would affect the clutch, except for maybe the acceleration. But it does. And I put that to 0, and I've got to have that at 100%. And it's as smooth as silk once I've done that. Apart from that, the minute you open the clutch, it just stalls the truck. But this way, take off smooth, you can actually take off in higher gears and everything like you used to. So again, if you're experiencing a clutch problem, for now, you might have to do this. 0 all your dead zones and increase your clutch to 100% travel. All right. These I don't use. And now down here, I have the Eaton 18 speed, in-full 18 speed for my shifter layout. I have the advanced behavior for the shifter layout behavior. That means that I can float my gears. I can, you know what I mean. I can change gears without using the clutch, just like I would in a real truck, etc., etc. And I use shifter, split, advanced only, clutch and throttle. Again, so that I don't have to use the clutch, I can just use the throttle. A lot of people say to set it to throttle release, but in my with my system, if I did that, I could never get it right. It would just crunch gears all the time. So if I have clutch or throttle, I don't actually use the clutch except for taking off. Once I've stopped, I put the clutch in. I'll put it in first gear and move off using the clutch. But after that, I don't have to use clutch. Sometimes I do because I forget, but most of the time I'm not using the clutch when I go through gears and when I go back down through the gears. This doesn't matter. Again, this is just whatever setup gear shift you have is what you'll have here. Reverse, I don't have the reverse because if I put something in reverse, it doesn't work on this gear shift. I just have these positions. Okay? Yeah. And as far as the toggle goes, where are we? Shifter toggle. I have the button set up on my knob at the top here, and automatic gearbox drive and automatic gearbox reverse. I have that set up on this gearbox, this gear shift as well. Actually, I can't remember. I don't use it, but I've had it set up just in case I had to. I can't remember what buttons they're on. They're on one of the joysticks. Okay. So I know that's as clear as mud, but I'm sorry. Okay, now I do use eye tracking or head tracking, but I don't use hardware for it. I simply use, at the moment, I'm simply using OpenTrack and web camera. So I don't have that turned on and configured. I don't need it. And others, color feedback, I have that turned on. Enables RGB feedback on compatible devices. That's for other stuff. I don't know what, it's default, so I left it on. Okay. I'm not pretending that I know what all these settings are. Some of them I've just left on default because I didn't know what they were. Okay, in here online, I'm connected to World of Trucks, of course, and I have all these turned on as default because I like to check out the online news. Image Spotlight, I've only just recently turned that on because I wanted to see what it would be like. In fact, I only just turned it on today to find out what it does. Dynamic billboards, I had that turned on so that it actually shows adverts or how do they explain it? Enables downloading of real advertisements for display on selected in-game billboards. I've always had that on because I like to see the real adverts. Accessibility, okay. Again, some of these settings we've already covered. Invert mouse off, steering rotation off, camera 100% don't use it, steering camera rotation disabled, blinker camera rotation disabled, physical camera movement on 100%, auto camera steering disabled. Instant, again, like I said to you, if you're not using head tracking, this can be very useful. So try it and see what you think. If you don't like it, don't use it. Steering auto center, have that turned off. Cursor speed, I have it up at about 800. That's all my in-game settings. Now, I know that's a lot to take in, but again, if you need to, pause the game at any, pause the video at any time, and you can copy the settings. But again, these are my settings. They may not necessarily end up being yours, but it's a good place to start and then adjust accordingly. All right, so that's that. Now, what else would I need to show you that I've got set up in here? That's about it. Options. Accessibility, no. Okay. Donald game. Quit. No, I think that's all I need to show you in here. Company, truck manager. Oh, people ask me about my gearboxes and motors that I'm using at any given time. On this truck that I've got right now, the Resbuilt 389, I have, I'm not going to be able to do that. Oh, I know what to do. Let's go outside and I'll quickly drive, show you what motor and gearbox I use in this. Again, this is my fun day profile, meaning that this motor might be larger than I normally use. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to quickly go over the, you can see that where is it? Oh, it's over the road. Okay. Just trying to get to the service centre over here. As you can see, I use head tracking, so I don't need half that stuff that I told you about. So we'll quickly pop in here, and again, like I say, I normally use anywhere between a 600 and 800 for my realistic profile, or my just hardcore profile. I'll try to keep it as realistic as possible. What am I doing? Hit the wrong button. But in this one, this is my let your hair down profile. So what size motor's in this? Oh no, I've got the 800 in this as well. So I normally use, like I say, between a 600 and 800 horsepower, because I don't want to go overboard with anything like a 10,000, which you can get in this lot. I just think that's just ridiculous. I mean, the largest engine I've ever heard of or seen in a truck was a 1,000 horsepower. And that was in a massive heavy haul truck here in Australia that hauled stuff for the mining sites. Anyway, so that's the engine that I use. Normally is the 800 horsepower or lower, 600, whatever. Gearboxes will depend on what we're doing at the time. With this one, I've got the 215 because I was looking for speed, not pull power, but I normally will try to go for a medium differential range, and that's normally about 325, 335, something like 323, something like that is what I'll go for, because that's a happy medium, if you know what I mean. If you're looking to gain more speed on the highways, the lower number, 2.15 or 1 or even lower, whatever you can get, the lowest you can get will give you the greatest top end speed. But if you're looking for pulling power, these ones here with your 530 or whatever will give you greater pulling power for heavier loads. Again, like I say, in most circumstances, I'll go for, say, a 323, 308 or something like that, 325, 336. They're the ones that I'll go for because they're a medium type gearbox, and they give me an overall power for what I want. So it's a happy medium. Okay. So that's that. Now let's take a look at my config file and show you what I've altered in that. Okay, here we are in the config file. Now, if you are worried about changing anything in your config file and that it might hurt the game, don't be worried. Don't have fear, because you can always either make a backup copy of your config file and save it somewhere else. I always make a backup copy of my config file. Or alternatively, if you stuff it up completely and you haven't made a backup copy, you can delete it, restart the game, and the game will create a completely default config file for you again. So either way, you can't really stuff it up. But what I will say to you is this, that it's always best to make a backup copy just in case, because you may have already altered something and you are worried about losing those alterations. So make a backup copy of your config file. Let me just turn this off so you can see properly. Make a backup copy before you do it, and that way you're safe. All right, so the first setting that I change is my buffer page size. Now, a lot of people will tell you that various numbers. Now, since the update, I used to have this up at around about 500 at one stage, and it used to work great. But then when the 1.60 update came out, I was getting stuttering and jittering, and I actually put it back to default, which was 10, and the game came good. But I was having loading problems and other problems when I was in a dedicated server. So I increased it to 50 to see what difference it would make, and it made all the difference. The game runs a lot smoother. It seems to be a lot quicker on loading. It doesn't have any problems in the dedicated server, and it doesn't have any problems when I'm loading different mods and all that stuff. Now, a lot of people say there's no use going on above 30. Again, I don't care what they say. My setting at 50 works. And at 30 it works too, but it works better at 50, I've found. And again, I've done a lot of testing. Again, if you don't want to do it at 50 because other people have told you it's 30, go 30. But do not leave it at 10. 10 is the default. 10 is too low. No matter what people tell you, everybody, all the true hardened believers will tell you that the default setting is what you should have at 10, but it is not good, especially if you're running mods, etc. If you're not running mods, then leave it at 10. It won't worry you. But if you're running mods and you've got modded maps and all that stuff, you want higher than 10. You want at least 30, if not 50. All right? So that's the first setting. Now, all these settings I'll put in the description below, and that way you'll be able to see what I've changed. Okay, now the next one is the actual lighting span factor. So you'll type up here, paste, and look for it. And I've changed the lighting span factor. That's weird. I normally have that set at 3. It's at 10. I must have set it at 10 at one of the tests that I did. And it's working fine anyway. So I would recommend 3. I've got it at 10 for some reason at the moment. I've got to check my notes on it. I always do notes on when I'm doing testing, because I do so much testing and I change so many things that sometimes I can forget what I've done. and why I've done it. So I write it down. I will check that later and find it. But I would recommend changing that from 1 to 3 instead, or you can try it at 10. 10 seems to be working fine for me. So that's that one. That's one of the other things that I've changed. The next one is which one is it? The light span. No, what is it? Sorry, reflection scaling. That was one of them, wasn't it? Yes. Reflection scaling. Okay, so I've changed that from 1 to 3, the reflection scaling. And again, these are the ones that you saw me talking about that were on custom in the settings. And again, you don't have to do this. I'm just showing you what my settings are. Then we've got the window length. And we just type this in. I'm just copying and pasting. And I've changed that from, it's normally 20. I've changed it to 300. Now, a lot of people will tell you, that's way too high. And again, I don't care because it works for me at 300. And again, I'll probably get flamed for this and people will say, oh, you shouldn't have it that high. You should only have it at this or whatever. Okay, let me tell you this. The best way I've found to do this is to increase it in slight increments, meaning it will be set at 0, I think, when you get it at default. I'm not exactly sure. No, it'll be set at 20. Okay, now you can try it at 0 and see what happens, but I recommend you try it at 20, which is the default. And if you're happy with it, leave it. Or you can go to 60, 120, 240, if you get what I mean. And then just try it at different settings, see how the game runs and everything. If you want to know what window length is, I have a link to it in one of my other videos about the settings, because it is way too hard and difficult to explain in just this video. So anyway, I have it at 300 and it works extremely well for me. So they're all the config settings that I change in my config file. There is one other that I forgot to mention, and it is only because I go to it on a dedicated server, and that is Convoy. Where are we? The Convoy size. Now, your Convoy size will be 8. We operate on servers that allow up to 128 players. So I changed that Convoy size to 128. But its default is 8. If you want, and the other thing to remember is if you change this to 128, when you're searching for a server in your Convoy, in your active convoys and that, it will look for everything below and up to 128. So it may take a long time, or a lot longer than you're used to, for it to search for servers, because it'll be searching for all servers up to 128. If you leave it at 8, it will only search for 8. You can put 20, 28, whatever you want in there, but leave it at 8 if you're not going to change it. But if you want to, you can put it 28. We're operating at, I think it's 28 at the moment, and you could leave that at 28 if you're only looking for servers with 28 players in it. And that way you're not looking for all servers. Okay? So that's a config file. That's the settings. I think I've covered everything now. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Now, yes, warning. Okay, let's start this up again. So let's get this started. Let's get this party started. Okay, so word of warning. Now, I don't know if it's unique to me, but I thought I'd let you know. If you go into your options from the title screen, and I don't know if it'll just be, it may be just if you, and again, it may just be this update, because I've only just noticed it with this update. If you go into the options here and change anything in your settings, and that's why I'm not doing it, because I don't want it to happen. If you go into options and you go to your settings in your option and you change anything in your options, when you come back out of here, it overwrites your config file with the default config. So you'll find when you go back in the game, it won't recognize any of your old devices. For example, let me turn this on. For example, it won't recognize your wheel. It won't recognize your gear shift or anything like that because it's put your config file completely back to default. So any changes you make in the options, at least for me, and I'm saying this as a precaution because it's happening to me every time I do it. And I've only noticed it since the 1.60 update. So I don't know if it's just me that's happening to, or if it's an inherent fault in the system. But if you go into options and you change any of your settings in your graphics or anything like that, it will revert everything back to default. So your graphics will go back to default. Your config file will go back to default. Your controls will go back to default. Everything gets wiped. So warning, do not use that if you're worried that that may happen. Or if you are going to use it, make sure you do a backup of your config file. Okay? Make sure if you're going to use that before you use it, if you're going to test if you've got that fault, make a backup of your config file so that you don't lose everything, or else it will go back to default, or at least it does for me. So that's the warning. All right? Hopefully that doesn't happen to you, and hopefully everything works out. And again, anything that you see in this video is at your own risk. Not that there's any problem. You won't have any risk involved in it because you can always revert back to your old settings. But these are my settings. Try them, see what they're like. If you like them, leave them. If you don't, adjust them to your liking. Adjust it till the point that you do like it. Put it back to the default. It is just a setting that you can change at any time. Okay? So hopefully that explained all my settings, my config, everything that I do, everything that I use. That's the other thing I was going to tell you about. I use SimDash for my dashboard here on this device. I use SimDashboard again for my button box here on this device. And over here, I'm using Touch Portal for my, it's like a Stream Deck, but free. Well, not totally free. I think I paid $3 for it or something. Anyway, I've got a soundboard over here. It's a Miono Lite. And that's where the microphone. See, that's a microphone. That microphone on the boom is actually part of the Miono Lite soundboard. All right, so yes, hopefully you enjoyed it. I'm sorry if it went on and on and on, but everybody was asking about all my settings, and I thought best to do all my settings and take it from there. So please subscribe if you haven't already. It's free. Really does help me out. If you want to check out my merchandise, it's all down in the description below. If you wish to help me out, you can either become a member or go over to my Buy Me a Coffee page and check out some of the stuff that I offer there, or even make a donation, because it really does help me out to keep providing free information and tutorials. Okay, catch us later, guys. Catch you in the next one. Bye for now.